Ever worry about running out of power in your EV? Or maybe you're thinking about getting an electric car, but you're not really sure how much range you need? It's more about your comfort level being stranded on the road. When my wife was a teenager, yeah, she needed to borrow the family car, and her dad said, okay, fine, but you need to stop for gas first. So she hopped in the car, took off. The gas station was only like a mile away. So she was in the left lane within sight of the gas station. She ran out of gas. To this day, she keeps a careful eye on the gas gauge, and if it gets down around a quarter of a tank, she stops for gas. My experience is a little different. Back then I was riding motorcycles, and my Honda CB360, that was my first bike, and it didn't have a gas gauge. So, it held about 3 gallons of gas, which was good for 145 miles. But if you wanted to know how far you had to go, you have to open up the gas cap, take a peek in, and look around. If you saw gas, you were good. If you didn't see it, yeah, you better stop and refill it. That worked for me pretty well. Yeah, once or twice I did have to coast into the gas station as the engine was sputtering, but yeah, you kind of get used to it. Now the Teslas and other EVs are a lot different. They have a much more accurate battery gauge for your level. It'll tell you pretty precisely how much juice is in your battery left. If you're at all concerned about how much battery power you're going to have, just put the destination into the navigation system, and it'll tell you very closely what your battery percentage will be when you arrive there. And if it's a short trip, it'll also tell you how much battery power you'll have when you get home. Okay, with 100 miles left of battery range, if I go up to the food bank, I'll have 26% battery left, and coming home, 17%. So I don't need the charge. I can wait till I get home. My range in this Model Y varies a lot whether I'm doing in-town driving or on a long road trip. My around-town driving is pretty efficient. I'm probably running about 250 watts per mile. If you have a home charger, you just plug it in when you get home. Next day you have a full battery power. You don't even think about it whether you have enough juice or not. You can go hundreds of miles during the day. For me, I don't drive a lot, so yeah, I only plug it in once a week. And yeah, when it gets down to about 40% battery, I just recharge it again. So I don't have to worry about it at all. Of course, if you have a job where you have to drive around all day long, yeah, if it's going to be over, say, 250 miles or so, you might need to stop at a supercharger sometime during the day, maybe at lunchtime, and charge it up again. If you're going to be driving more than that, yeah, right now I suggest you stick with your gas car. Yeah, wait a few years because the battery technology keeps getting better and better and longer range. Of course, if you can't charge at home, then you're going to have to use superchargers, or maybe your work has a charger, something like that. In that case, you're going to have to plan your charging stops just like you do with a gas car. Most people will go to the same gas stations to fill up. Yeah, when an EV, you probably end up going to the same supercharger stations. So it's not a big deal. You just plan for it and you're all set. What advantage with Tesla is it tells you right on navigation where all the superchargers are. You can also get that information from your phone, and your phone app will tell you, how many stalls are available, if it's busy or not. So yeah, no surprises. My wife gets her gas at Costco, and sometimes it can be a long line depending on the day. But for me in the Tesla, I don't wait in any lines. When I get home, I can plug it in, do whatever I want while the thing is charging. On a long road trip, if you're in a big hurry, you might prefer a gas car because it's quicker to refuel. Mustangs have been known to be able to go across the whole country in around 26 hours. In an EV, it's going to take a little bit longer. On road trips, you're probably going to be driving a lot faster. And as we all know, same as gas cars, the faster you go, the more fuel you use. This is the same as gas engines. However, Tesla has better tools to help you figure out when you need to recharge. The navigation will show exactly which superchargers you need to stop at to recharge. Yeah, typically we probably went about 150 miles or maybe even some less between supercharger stations. On our drive from San Diego to Colorado, it wasn't so bad. After a couple hours of driving, yeah, we were ready for a bathroom break.
Now you have the Yermo Ice Cream Sundae.
The drive between Las Vegas and Southern California just added a new oddity right there on the I-15.
Nice chance to get out and stretch your legs and go into the store and maybe get an ice cream or something. So now that I know how accurate it is, yeah, I don't worry about it at all. We just go, charge up whatever they say, and go off to the next one. I'm actually okay driving down to a 10% battery level. Usually that doesn't happen, but it's not a big deal. But I don't like to go below 10% because it may have a long-term stress on the battery. So I try to stay between 80% and the 20%. Now for things that affect battery range, the biggest one, of course, is towing. If you tow a big trailer behind you, even a moderate-sized trailer actually, yeah, you can expect to get maybe 1/3 of your battery range. If you're going up in elevation, it takes a lot of energy to move these 4,400 pounds up the hill. So expect that your range will be dropped to maybe not quite in half, but it really depends on how fast you go and the elevation gain. But the good thing is, when you come down the hill, you'll gain most of that energy back in your battery. Yeah, we went 250 miles. That's pretty good. The next biggest impact is speed. It's not necessarily just your driving speed, but you also have to add in any wind speed. If you have a tailwind, you can drive a little bit faster and use the same energy. But if you have a headwind, it's going to cause a lot more battery drain, and you won't go as far as you think you're going to go. The Tesla computers in these things are pretty accurate, but they don't account for wind. In a related aspect, yeah, drafting. If you're following somebody on the highway, you'll be in their little draft. So you have this guy at 7 car lengths back. Fuel efficiency is improved from about 24% to 29% over probably about 30 miles. Another thing that affects your range is whether you're doing in-town or highway driving. This is a little bit different than a gas car. Gas cars usually have better gas mileage on the highways. With your Tesla and your electric car, you're going to get better range in town. So a lot of things don't make too much difference when you're going slow, and you have the regenerative braking to help put energy back into your battery. Plus, when you're stopped in traffic, you're not using any power. There's no engine running. The next item are weather extremes. Yeah, if it's very hot or very cold out, your Tesla heat pump will be running, and that will be consuming energy. So you might be losing up to like 6 miles of range every hour or so running your air conditioning or heat. So one thing you can do to minimize that, of course, is not use your heater itself, but just use the seat heaters. They don't use as much power, and that won't have as big an impact on your total range. Another thing you may have heard about that affects range is your choice of wheels and tires. The ones that come on the Tesla are pretty good in that regard. But you might be thinking about, well, how about the rim size? 19 versus 20 or 21 inches. According to Tesla, the EPA rating for the 21-inch tires are 23 miles less than for the 19-inch tires. Yeah, and I've seen some other testing online too, and it shows that at higher speeds, like on the highway and stuff, you might get up to 30 miles difference, with the 19-inch being the most efficient and give you the longest range. But then again, around town, it doesn't make much difference at all. And so if you'd rather have the looks over the range, that's fine too. I like the 19s because they're more comfortable as well as being more efficient. So those are the items that affect your range while you're driving. There are a few things that also affect your battery levels when you're not driving. For example, like Sentry mode. If you're running Sentry mode overnight, you're probably going to lose 2 or 3 miles of range every night, possibly even more. And also the cabin overheat protection. I don't use that at all, but if you did have it on, or dog mode or that kind of stuff, it will use the air conditioner or the blowers, and that will consume power too. So whatever you do, don't leave your car at the airport for a couple of weeks. You may have a dead battery by the time you get back. A few tips on getting the most out of your range. First thing is using the regen. Yeah, unlike gas cars, you can accelerate these pretty quick. It doesn't have too much impact on the battery. But just having the regen and driving kind of smoothly at a constant speed is your maximum range. Another thing can help is using your autopilot. Yeah, the cruise control keeps you going at a steady pace, and it reduces the amount of wasted energy that you have. So it just follows right along, and it's usually better than driving yourself, especially on a long trip. One pedal driving gives you most regen of any of the settings you have. So even though it uses the friction brakes when it comes to the very, very stop, but most of the time it's putting back 3/4 of your energy back into the battery, so you can use that later, and that helps extend your range. One more thing that can help extend your range, if you're able to park into a garage or out of the sun and cold, because when your car starts off in the morning, if it's really cold out, you're going to use extra power to heat the battery up to give it its best efficiency. And the same thing if it's super hot out, the air conditioner will turn on to keep the battery cooler, while you're driving. So that gives you a little bit of a head start and can add a few more miles. It's not a big deal. If you want to run your climate control for 5 minutes or so, look cool, or heat the cabin up, yeah, you might only lose 1 or 2 miles, so it's not a lot. Now I've had this RV for a while. Yeah, I don't worry about battery range at all. It's just not a big deal. Actually, according to Volvo, they did a survey and they found that most of the people that worried about EV range were people who didn't have electric vehicles. Yeah, the people that did bought them, they weren't concerned at all, and they figured out how to make it work for them. By the way, our winter's coming up, and of course EVs are not as efficient in the cold weather. So another tip is leave your car plugged in if you can, and when you preheat it before you leave, use your house power rather than from your batteries. I'm actually getting close to 5,000 miles on Grandpa, so yeah, I think next up I'm going to have to take a look at the tires. According to Tesla, the rear tires always wear out first, so I need to figure out what's up with that. So anyway, until then, this is Grandpa Ron.